Have you been busy? Have you been upstairs and downstairs? Yeah? In and out of other rooms, or is this your first chat today? We'll call it a chat, not a in and out of rooms.
Still haven't had a look around downstairs.
Oh, really? Yeah. So you're doing lots of writing, lots of absorbing. Thanks, Simon. Thank you. That means I'm good to go because it is being recorded, so I imagine there'll be access later, which will be great. We might have other people kind of drift in, but we may as well get started because our last group took their full hour, and you got to be a part of that great conversation at the end. Really interesting. I was listening a little bit. It was really interesting conversation. So we are here today to discuss building foundation literacy skills. My name's Jenna. I'm a teacher here at TAFE, so this is my workplace. I normally hang around on level 3. I teach education support, so very passionate about education, which I'm sure you all are as well, because that's why you're here today. So I've been in the education for over 20 years now, so I've been teaching it primarily early childhood is my focus. Come in. So very, very passionate. I also am a mum with 2 boys who are not so little anymore. They're almost 19 and 15. So I'm hitting a whole nother stage as well in my life at home, but always learning. There we go. I just wanted to start by acknowledging the Yugambeh people. We are in the Yugambeh Theatre here today, who've been teaching and learning in this region for over 60,000 years. And today we're also here to continue that tradition of teaching and learning and to grow our knowledge. So today we've got 45 minutes, which I don't know how I'm going to do this in 45 minutes. I might start speaking quite quickly because honestly I could talk for days about early literacy, but we'll give you a snapshot today. We'll talk about oral language, early reading, early writing, where we start basically. If you're at home going, I don't know what to do, how do I teach reading and writing, where does it all begin? That's hopefully what we'll kind of cover today. And I'll also tell you some ways that you can use TAFE Queensland to discover more opportunities for learning yourself and growing your knowledge. So literacy. Literacy actually has these 3 components. Often we think literacy, reading and writing, and we jump straight there. But oral language is a really, really important part of where we need to start. So remembering that actually oral language is a part of literacy is one of our key things we need to remember. So that's what we're going to start with today, oral language. Okay. So oral language you obviously would be familiar with. So it's the listening and speaking. It involves our receptive language, so receiving, understanding language, as well as our expressive language, so communicating, expressing ourselves clearly. Most oral language is learned through exposure and conversations. You don't need to be specifically taught our oral language skills. It's something we just absorb as we grow. Isn't that fabulous? That means if we have conversations with our children, they're going to learn oral language. But why does it matter? So oral language is the bedrock of literacy. Children who engage in rich conversations develop vocabulary, comprehension, expressive skills that directly support reading and writing. So oral language isn't just a precursor to reading, it's one of the strongest indicators of future reading success. So think of that, strongest indicator of future reading success. It all starts with those conversations. Research shows oral language skills outperform even vocabulary alone in predicting how well a child would read. So this reinforces the importance of talking with your children, asking questions, encouraging that expressive language every day. Spoken language is the earliest and most essential tool that children have as emerging writers as well. So long before they develop pencil control and they're actually writing and master phonics, children can express themselves through oral storytelling. Okay, so that active making stories, story making harnesses that natural ability to enhance both spoken and written language, thinking about sequencing events, verbal rehearsal, key story structures, All of that happens, language patterns, it all happens through that oral language. So before we even start our reading and writing journey, we need to make sure we can do it orally. So I've mentioned some of these already. When we're developing our oral language, we're developing our listening and comprehension, our vocabulary acquisition, sentence structure and grammar, and expressive communication. So by speaking, we're going to learn how grammar rules are working, how our sentences are structured. Are we formulating our words in the correct order? Okay. The meaning of words, of course, our vocabulary, which is being built. Also the social rules of communication. So if we're talking about social rules, how you might talk to your siblings at home versus your mum and dad versus maybe somebody at a waitress at a restaurant or at the shops, we all have different ways of communicating what's appropriate in different circumstances. So all of these things are really important, and that's what we're learning as well as we're having those conversations. That will then translate when they're writing for different audiences and different purposes, different styles of writing. So understand that different audiences and different social structures have different styles of communication is a really important foundation. It will also build that awareness of sounds and the ability to understand and comprehend the spoken language that we hear. So I imagine you're probably doing a lot of this already, okay? Because oral language does not happen in a formal setting, does it? It just happens with incidental, everyday opportunities that you're working with at home. So if you're in the garden, if you're cooking dinner, if you're out at the shops, it's all of those conversations that you can have the opportunity to introduce new vocabulary, to talk about different things that you're seeing, that you're doing. Engaging in meaningful conversations, things that your children want to talk about. In these opportunities, ask open-ended questions. So that's questions that don't have a finite answer, a singular response. Questions that can evoke them to think, why do you think? How does that, questions that they have to explain and build their understanding as they're talking with you. Narrate your daily activities. First we need to, then we're going to, next, and then finally. All of those kind of narrations is helping them understand a sequence of events and structure in what we're doing. Using descriptive language during play. And games, any game you can turn into an oral language opportunity, can't you? So easy things like describe it, games, hide something under a bag or under a blanket. Oh, under here there's something that's round and soft and squishy and has 2 ears, what is it? Anything where we're describing. There's a lot of, I spy with my little eye something that is hard and shiny and I can see through. So any kind of opportunity where we're building language. There's of course lots of games you can buy, simple things like Guess Who, because we're describing things. You can buy beautiful story cubes that have little, they're like dice with pictures on them. Has anyone seen those? Yeah, maybe. And you roll them and they have to think of a story that goes with the pictures that you roll. So anything like that is also good, but not necessary. We can do all of this just in our everyday interactions. One of the most important things, of course, to remember is the power of shared reading. So this is even before we're teaching them to read. We're talking about our oral language, actually just reading aloud. But it's more than just reading aloud, it's actually having that conversation with your children about the book you're reading. What do we think this book's going to be about? Let's talk about the story, what's happening next. Let's look at the pictures. How would you feel if? What do you think they're feeling now? All of those ideas about having a conversation around the story is so important. Not only will they hopefully have that love for stories, and if you can have a love for stories before you even start reading, you're on the right track to start. But we can start building those decoding skills and comprehension too for stories. Unfortunately, I don't know if we have enough time today to really delve into the comprehension side, but if you sign up to one of our webinars, we go into that in a lot more detail. So, how do we build? We've got our oral language, we know we're having lots of conversations, we're talking to our children a lot. You all talk to your children all the time, don't you? I'd imagine, I'd hope so. now we need to build that strong foundation for reading. So really applying some specific ideas that we can then use for reading. So reading begins with phonological awareness. Anyone heard of that term before? There's a couple of nods, maybe it's new for some of you. So phonological awareness is the most important pre-reading skill. This happens completely orally. Okay, so we talk about all of these skills before we even pick up a book. So they need to have an awareness of the sounds in spoken language, all right? So the foundational skill sets the stage for our successful reading and writing. So phonological awareness is the ability to hear and manipulate the sounds in spoken words. Okay, it's not about the letters or the print, it's about listening and playing with the sounds. So things like, can they create rhymes, count syllables in words, recognise beginning, middle, end sounds in words, break words into individual sounds, so segment the words, blend those sounds together. So all of these are skills that they need to be able to do to then apply to be able to read. So if you have a child that is struggling with their reading, the first thing I'd always say is you need to go back to phonological awareness. Can they actually do these things first? Because if they can't do these things, they're not going to be able to then start reading, okay? So that's how important this is. So let's have a little look at so as you can see here, they're our building blocks, aren't they? They're our building blocks, our foundation for reading. So phonological awareness, first one up here, word awareness. Word awareness is simply, as it says, being aware of the number of words in a sentence. So things like, if I say, how are you today? That's how are you today? That's 4 words. So knowing that words make up a sentence and how many words that is really important. So what can we do? We can literally start counting how many words. How many words is in that sentence that you just said to me? Let's, the next conversation, let's see how many words will be in our sentence. How are you today? I had 4. I woke up feeling great. I just made 5. Wonder if someone else can make it more than that. Turn it into a bit of game. Maybe you could roll a dice and however many, maybe a pack of cards would be better. You wouldn't want to have a 1-word sentence, would you? Although that could be pretty fun as well. It's just literally counting how many words. Pretty easy to do, isn't it? It's just remembering to do it. And when we start writing, and we're writing a sentence, we need to know how many words are going to be in that sentence, don't we? And we need to know that they're separate words. So being able to do this first is really important. Syllables. Everyone familiar with syllables? Surely? Everyone want to start clapping syllables? It seems to be the natural go-to, isn't it? So a syllable is a unit of sound in a word, and it generally will consist of a vowel sound, okay? Sometimes we do it automatically, we don't really know how it's broken up. You can Google all the technical ways of what a syllable is, but generally speaking, it will have a vowel sound, okay? So if I say something like handkerchief, we all know that's probably going to be what? Handkerchief. Pretty good, easy, 3. How did I kind of get to that though? It seems to be natural, doesn't it, when we do it? A few little tricks if you're finding your little one is having trouble with this. For you to check that you've got it right, because has anyone ever gone, oh, ball? How many syllables in ball? Anyone want to guess? Is it ball or is it ball? Now you're all a bit nervous. No one wants to say. Do you want to hide your response? 1 or 2. You do a little sneaky finger. You think it's 1? Yeah, it is 1. But if you're ever in that stage where you go, I don't know. If you take notice of your chin, now it is subtle, but let's say handkerchief, handkerchief. Your chin will go down when you open your mouth with a vowel sound. So your chin actually goes down in every syllable. Ball, only once. Okay, so that's a handy little trick if you think, oh, okay, I can do this. The other idea is to start talking like a robot. When you talk like a robot, you start talking in syllables. interesting, isn't it? So that might be a fun way you can do that with your kids at home. Use your robot voice because you do start automatically talking in syllables. It's not completely accurate, no, but it is a little bit of fun, a way to do that. Onset and rhyme. Now this one, onset and rhyme, is when we're looking at that unit of sound, so the syllable. It could be a single syllable word like cat, or it could be a longer word with several, but onset and rhyme is in a single syllable like cat. It is the onset is the first sound in the word, so k, and the rhyme is the last part of the word, at. So we've got onset k, the rhyme is at in cat, okay? So we're breaking it down a little bit further again from our syllables there, aren't we? Then we've also got the idea of alliteration. Who's familiar with alliteration? Who likes tongue twisters? Anyone good at tongue twisters? No? She sells by the seashore? No, I didn't do that one well. Betty bought a bit of butter. Alliteration is hearing the initial sound, the first sound in a word, and identifying the same sound. We're tuning into the first sound. Okay, so tongue twisters are a great way to do that. Or even just starting, oh, that's not worked well, has it? Let's see if I can get it back up. So even just making your own silly alliteration sentences, rhymes and songs, okay? Lots of fun things there. Bear with me a second. While it's connecting, the last one, the other one next to alliteration was rhyme. We know rhyming words, so alliteration is hearing the beginning sound. Rhyming words is actually listening to the end sound. So chair, bear, both have air sound at the end, okay? So making sure when we're doing rhyme, there's lots of rhyming games, there's lots of silly songs that you can sing. Hi, come in. I think we're back. Let me put it back up. Here we go. You know, opportunities for them to produce rhyme, opportunities to be silly with rhyme. It doesn't always have to be a real word. As long as that end sound is actually the same, not close, but the same. And you can say, oh, it's similar, but we're really looking for the same. So under that phonological awareness umbrella, we also have our phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness, if you think phonemes, phonics, that's the sounds that our letters make, our individual sounds in words. So one skill there is blending. So if we've got the word cat, we know that it's got a k, at. We're going to blend those sounds together, cat, to make the word. So that's blending the sounds together. Segmenting is going the other way. With the word cat, I need to pull it apart. I need to segment it into its individual sounds. So cat has a k, a, t in it, okay? So I can see the beginning, middle, and end sound. Phoneme manipulation is that we start swapping out sounds in words and changing them. So if we start with cat, and I take the a and I change it to an o, what word do I have now? Cot, nice. If I take cot and I take the k and I make it a p, what do I have now? Pot. If I have pot and I take the o and I make it an a, what do I have? Pat. See how we're changing and we can hear the different parts of sounds. So some of these will be easier. It's often easier to hear the initial sound first and then the end sound in a word before we can hear the middle sounds. But of course, if we're trying to write, we need to be able to hear those sounds in words, don't we? So we can know what to put down. So as I say, these are all really, really important skills. Maybe we should check quickly how good you are at your phonological awareness. Are you ready? If you're a bit shy, you're allowed to use your fingers to show me, okay? Let's do some syllables first. How many syllables in animal? 3? We got a definite 3? Easy. All right, elephant. Elephant. Caution. Caution. 2. Cat. I've said cat a lot. Cat. 1. Anyone use their robot voice in their head? Caution. I need to have caution. All right, how many sounds? Let's go back. How many sounds? So we're thinking about how many sounds in a word, not how many letters, how many sounds. How many sounds are in the word flag? We've got 4, 2, 3. We've got a lot of, good question. Flag. 4. Maybe you put F and L together, and made that combine. It's actually 4. What about bump? Got a 4. We got a 3. How many sounds if we sounded out bump? B, a, m, p, bump. But bump. Can you see how all of a sudden, because we've been doing this for so long automatically, when we're reading and writing, it's almost like a lost art to break it down, isn't it? So if we're doing this with our children, we need to start practicing breaking down the words into their sounds. What about phone? Oh, you're starting to think, hey, O, N, 3. Okay, so there's 3 sounds that make up phone. Do you want a hard one? What about training? 6. We've got 6. This is going to stop again. You're going 4? You're locking in 4? 4, 6. I've heard a few, anywhere between 4 and 6 I'm hearing. 5? Here we go. T, R, A, N, I, N. 6. Training. Good news is, the more you start working with your children, developing their skills, the better you'll get at it as well. Okay, and when you start looking at their phonics skills, and sorry, I'm just getting the screen back up for you as well. When you're looking at phonemes and sounds, you start to become more familiar again with these yourself.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why is it so important that, like, obviously we can read and write and get along and do research and things. Why is it so important to then go back and, like, if we don't, like I said, 4, obviously that's very wrong, but obviously I can do all those things. Why is it important to teach the children?
So when they start reading and writing, they need to be able to recognise those sounds to sound it out, or if they're writing, they need to be able to hear those sounds to put them all in the word, don't they? So if we say there's only 4 sounds, they're going to write 4 sounds, and we know there's a lot more than that. So, you know, the more we know, the better we can support them. Yeah. But, you know, start with the easy stuff anyway. You don't need to jump to training at the, you know, words that are that complicated when you've got, you know, you stay with the knowledge that you're teaching them. Yeah. So really, your knowledge grows with their knowledge as they're reading. Yeah.
I guess the other thing too is the technicality is for us.
Yes, that's right. It's not for them, but when you are supporting them, we'll talk about this when we get to writing, when you're supporting them saying they're writing, you're going to get them to break down the sounds, you're going to segment that word. So you might need to help them do that if they're unsure. Yeah. So knowing what they are is helpful. Yeah. But, and I'll show you as we go, because you'll actually start picking it up anyway yourself. Yeah.
And just a question on that slide, was that somewhat sequential? Like, do you build from bottom up? And is it like age dependent?
It's not so much age, but maybe developmentally appropriate. Some children will pick these up really easily, and some will have more issues. So, like rhyme, for instance, some will just get it in an instant. You know, they just start rhyming, they hear it, they tune in. Others need a lot more practice. You know, so you could go, I've got or this is, you might start just having fun. So instead of saying this is my head, you can say this is my bed. And they go, not bed, head. You know, you start telling them what they are. So you might have to do more. I would start with the top blocks before you go down into the phonemic awareness. Okay, so start with the top blocks, word awareness, syllables, onset, rhyme, alliteration and rhyme. You can kind of do them at the same time. They might find some easier than others. Okay, and you just spend as much time as you need for them to get those concepts. Yeah. So once we have that, we've got our rich oral language, we've got our phonological awareness. Now it's time to actually start concentrating on phonics and decoding. So we're going to start reading, okay? And of course, we're not going to just give them a big book and say, here, let's go, okay? Oral language, as I said before, we kind of absorb that as we kind of grow just in our conversations in our life. We just learn it. But reading isn't necessarily something we just absorb. We do need to give explicit and systematic instruction. We need to teach them. So when we're learning to read, the words are just squiggles on a page if we don't know how to unlock that code, okay? It's meaningless. So we need to teach them the code. What the code is the letter sound, the sound the letter makes, okay, when we're looking at the letter on the page. So, and I've said here, not the letter name. The code is the sound, not the letter name. We don't need to know that cat is C-A-T. We need to know when we're reading it that it's actually saying k-at. Yeah? That's what the important knowledge is. So really, if we're singing or we're doing alphabet, we shouldn't be doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We should be doing A, B, C, D, F, G. All right? We need to switch the way we're talking about our letters. So we're not using the letter name, but we're actually using the sound they make. Same with our vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Seems to be how we all grew up talking about them, wasn't it? The vowels are A, E, I, O, U. But what sounds do they make? When we see an A, what should it be saying? It's A, E, I, O, A. Okay? So knowing what sounds those letters make is what's important. We do use the letter names a little bit further down the track. So when we start learning digraphs, that's two letters that come together to make one sound. You know, I know a S and a H make a sh sound. So we do use the letter names at times. So it's not that we don't want to teach them at all, but it's not our focus when we're learning to read. It's all about the sound. Okay, so if we are learning 6 words, so if we memorise 6 words, we know how to read 6 words, don't we? If we learn 6 sounds, we can actually read. We're using our blending, knowing that we're going to blend those sounds together. We can read over 100 words. So that's the power of learning to decode, learning the letter sounds, learning those phonological skills, okay? So most programs, if you're looking at a decoding program or a phonics program, they'll start with SATPIM, or they'll call it SATPIN or SATPIM. So S-A-T, or I should say SAT, I, P, N. They'll be the first 6 sounds. So we don't start at the beginning of the alphabet and teach the alphabet through. We actually don't use the alphabet order. We use sounds that are used commonly in words and we can make lots of words from. So SATPIN, we generally, I would say, you start with those, you go as fast or as slow as your child needs. Some will just devour this and you won't be able to give them enough sounds. Others will spend a long time just learning those 6 to start. And that's okay, because they'll all get to the same point at the end, you know. So one of the things, you know, which is why the advantage of working from home and we're not going to school, is in school they have a very set program and all the kids need to try and stay up, you know, and we keep introducing and introducing because that's what the plan says. And children can become overloaded and they can see others are up here and they're still down learning that first 6. You can just go at the pace that your child needs, okay? So we start with SATPIN, build the knowledge. So when they've got those stats down really well, we can add a couple more, okay? I would say no more than 3 at a time. That's plenty, okay? Even 1 at a time would be appropriate, depending on your child. As long as you're remembering to focus on the sound those letters make, not what they're called, the letter name, okay? So if you have a think, who can think of some words? SATPIN, if we just use those 6, SATPIN, what words do you think we could come up with?
Pint.
Pint? That's a good word. What's happening tonight? Is that all? We've got one word. At? Tip? Sat? Mat? We're up to 5. Now we're on a roll. Do you need a help? Here. Hot? Which one? Rot. There's no O. There's no or O. Just SATPIN. Yeah, we're just using her first set. Yeah, that's fair. That's all right. I get that. Have a look. This is just the list I started. There's probably, I think about 40, and I haven't even finished that. But if we know those 6 sounds, look already how many words you can start reading. It's pretty cool, huh? And the more sounds we learn, the bigger, like it grows exponentially. We just start to be able to apply it to more and more and more. So that's why we start with 6, something we can manage, and we practice those blending skills to go with it. So, how are we going to learn these phonemes? We don't want to sit down and use flashcards. That's very tedious, isn't it? We don't want to sit there at a desk or at a table having to learn these phonemes. So we want to make it fun. We want to go out, draw it in the sand, get some shaving foam, do some finger painting, make those letters, recognise those letters. As we're introducing the phonics program, it's often really good. We're learning the sound, we're learning what it looks like. Let's learn how to formulate that letter at the same time. So we're learning all of those skills at once. So we're combining our writing, our handwriting in at the same time. But if you're teaching them how to formulate those, make sure they're doing it in the correct formation. So things like an A, we go along, around, up and down. Don't lift your finger. It's not a circle and a stick.
Why?
Really good question. Why? Because later on, when they start doing cursive running writing,
And if that's not going to happen, because they get to grade 3 and you and I, and this probably, not all of us, got our licence and we got a pen. And we
grade 5, yeah.
But not anymore. Now we give them a laptop at grade 4.
Yes, but
So my typing is important. So I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about the why.
I think we're jumping
Are we
the
still holding it?
I think we're jumping the gun if we're going to say there's no need for handwriting in our future.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, but that's so if there is a need for handwriting, even studies have showed that even memory, so let's talk tertiary and beyond future studies, you're going to recall and remember information, handwriting cursive, better than anything else.
Agreed.
So is it not a skill we want to set them up from the beginning? If we're going to teach them what an at looks like, will we not just take the extra minute to show them how to formulate it? So when we then have to do an at eventually, print, I wouldn't be teaching cursive for a long time, but if we've formulated the letter in the right way from the beginning, A, it looks like it's supposed to, and B, when we move on and if we want to start using cursive, it's a very simple step. We're not relearning habits, because as soon as there's a habit, it's very hard to undo. Very hard to undo. Yeah? I look at my eldest son handwriting and it is shocking. Shocking. Maybe that's it. I knew it was doctor. If we want to have legible writing, then I would be doing it from the beginning. That's my personal preference and from what I've seen. Okay. It doesn't always have to be at writing though. We could do lots of art. You might have, your child might be really crafty. Let's turn the shape of a T into a train track, and talk about, it's terrific, and, let's make it turquoise, and only 2 people can go on the trains, or maybe 10 wheels, and think of many times you can say the T sound as you're doing it, but make sure we're looking at the T shape. while we are as well. Or, you know, Urura-shaped road, I've got a red race car that's going to go onto the Urura-shaped road. You know, we don't have to always be writing to start learning these. Go outside with chalk, paintbrush and water to trace it. You know, get outside, shape the letter with Play-Doh pipe cleaners. Post-it notes are great for passwords around your house if we're starting to learn our phonics. You know, put to get into the bathroom, or maybe not, maybe their bedrooms. You won't want to have a fuss at the toilet. But you know, you have to say the letter before you can go in. What sound does it make? Or you can play a scavenger hunt where you hide them all around the house. You go and find 4 and 5 cards and see if you can find them. You know, so you can make them into games. Stepping stones, my sons used to love this when they were little. I made little printed pictures of stepping stones down the hallway, and they'd just jump and say it every time they landed on it as they went down. So making it a bit of fun. So once we know all of those sounds, or at least those 6, we can start learning to blend. And as you can see, there's lots of words we can practice, and we just sat pin, can't we? So while we're learning our phonics, we can also start applying this reading words. Okay, so if we're learning to blend, start with VC or CVC words. VC just means a 2-letter vowel consonant word. CVC, 3-letter consonant vowel consonant word. They're very common terms that if you're Googling or looking for information, you'll use CVC or see it. So we need to say the sounds, blend the sounds, and then say the word. So if we want to read the word sit, first we need to say it, and then I'm going to blend it, sit. Then I'm going to say the word sit, okay? So we start by saying each sound individually, then we try and blend them together by elongating the sounds, and then we can say the word, okay? This takes a lot of practice. So if your child's struggling, choose letters that you can elongate. So I can keep saying for a long time, whereas if it was pit, it's a very short sound. So if I even say mum, that's a great one, because I can elongate all the sounds. Mum. You know, you're stretching the word out, and then you make it a bit faster. Mum. Maybe you don't want, you probably hear this enough, don't you? Mum, okay? So we're starting by stretching, like we're stretching, blending them together before we say the word, okay? And this skill might happen, you might need to do this quite a lot too. We can stay in this phase for quite some time. So even then, if we get a decodable sentence, if we move from just a word and we're reading a sentence that uses all these sounds, it can feel very slow, because every word, we say the sounds, we blend the sound, then we say the word, then we move on to the next word. So this sentence can take a long time to say. That's okay, it's all practice. And the more you do it, the more fluent they become, okay? They might be having trouble and you might have to help them. Maybe they can do the first part and then they leave off the end sound. You know, once again, it's just practice. All of it is steps forward. We just want to celebrate any success that they have at this stage. So as you can see, if we're just learning to read singular words first, we don't necessarily pick up books still. We want to have lots of games and fun activities, okay? So things like making bingo, where they have to read, you've got the words written down, so they have to read it. Word building with letter tiles, or if you have magnets at home, letter magnets, you could have like this it spread out, and as we blend it, sit, and then we push them together to then read the word. So anything like that is really good to keep reading. Memory match, CVC sort. CVC words are those 3-letter words. Draw the word, okay? You could start with some decodable readers that have, they generally start with that SAT pin, so you can get readers. We don't have time to go into decodable readers today, but if you want to join one of my on-demand webinars, we can go into that in more detail. Very conscious of our time because we started a bit late, didn't we? After that, I talked about digraphs. So once they've mastered some of these single sounds and they're blending, we can start moving on to digraphs. This is just an example up there. The other thing you do is you might start learning some sight words to apply to your decodable readers. Okay, but once again, that's what we'll be doing. That's what's after we've built this foundation. So of course we want to make it engaging, anything we're doing. Choral reading is a great way. That's actually reading in unison together. So if they're not as confident, they can read with you and listen to you, and they're just that millisecond behind. Or if they're at a word that you know they know better, you can kind of drop your voice lower and let them take the lead. So choral reading is a great tool. Turn taking, if they're getting tired, share the load, because hearing it and you modelling it is just as important. So, you know, take turns, make sure that if their stamina is fading, that you keep it short. Just stick to what they're able to achieve in that time. Use any incidental reading moments. I still remember the time we stopped, we were in the car and my son goes, stop. You know, oh, we can read a sign. So it doesn't matter if we can't read everything, but we might start recognising things, you know, celebrate those moments. Of course, make it fun, use your humour and your drama, be expressive, you know, yourself, so everyone can enjoy it. Okay, so we've talked about decoding, which is learning to read. On the other hand, we're encoding, which is learning to write. Okay, and it really is fairly similar. It's just kind of doing the reverse. So writing to produce a text, we need to break the words into parts. That's segmenting that I was talking about before. And we also need to use that phonic knowledge. We need to know what those letters look like when we're writing them. Okay. So in the opposite way, if we say we want to write the word sit, we need to say sit. Then we need to figure out what sounds are in it. S, I, t. Okay. Now I need to write the first sound, which is a s. What does that look like? How do I make that letter? Then I have to do it. Now I have to go back and think, hang on, what was next? S, I, it was the middle. What does it look like? Now I have to write it. Now I've got s, I, what's last? T. Okay, that's the last letter. What does that look like? Now I need to write it. There's a lot to remember. There's a lot going on, isn't there, when they're first starting to recall all of that information, apply it. So if you have a visual chart, if they go, what does this look like again? Having a visual chart for them to copy is okay. Let's find this, because sometimes they can find it and copy it, but they can't remember it, you know, just to write it themselves. So in the same way, you know, we can make games and activities very similar to our phonics, but this time we're writing what we're thinking about. We can change the one letter at a game, word building, roll and write, rhyming word chains, CVC picture hunt, go and look for all the pictures and then you have to write the words for what you find. So just keeping it at single word level to start with, okay, when we're learning how to encode. But we also want to encourage just writing for expression, don't we? Writing for more than just our CVC words, because that's going to get boring in itself, isn't it? If they can write about what they feel interested in and have ownership over it, that's obviously going to also encourage their writing. So provide varied writing materials. It doesn't have to always be pencil and paper, you know? So have it available, have a lot of different things to write with. Celebrate the effort, not perfection. It's really, really important. Use drawing as a pre-writing tool. Sometimes they might want to write something, but they're not sure yet. If they draw it first, then they can write about what they drew. Often that's a really good help. And as they say, if they're writing a sentence, we want to count how many words. If they're doing some purposeful writing, I went to the park, we need to count, okay, well, I'm going to put 5 words in that sentence, okay? So then they have to put 5 words. I know there's 5 words. My first word is I can write I. My next word was I went. Now I have to sound out went, went, okay? So this is a great example of some free writing. Anyone have a guess of what it says? It's tricky, isn't it? How many words do you think are there? 8 maybe?
Don't know actually.
You're close. 7? It says, camping is the best. You can make marshmallows. Now, if you know what it says, can you start seeing what they've done? Yeah? Can you see camping? So the first word, our k, we've got some main sounds that you'll find in camping. Is, the is probably a known word. Best, we've got b for best. I've also got a s in there. You would be a known word. Can, k, can make marshmallows. Pretty cool, isn't it? So first thing, if your child's writing like this, you don't say, what does it say? Because what that tells them is that wasn't writing. So think about how you're phrasing. Can you read it to me? I can't wait to hear you read your writing, you know. So just be careful of how you're asking for them to translate. Be aware of your words. But if they're reluctant to even do this, I don't know how to do it properly. You know, we have some children that just like, but that's not writing. I want to know what it is. Encourage them to say, yes, but you can use your magic writing. You know, magic writing's amazing because whatever you tell me it says is what it actually says. So if we can just let go of this idea of perfection and starting to apply that phonic knowledge, then they're really on the way to success. So when they are writing, we don't want to go and correct. That kind of beginning writing is beautiful. We want it and go, I can see the b for best, that's amazing. You know, look, I can see your spaces between the words. Look at how many words you've written. We're doing a lot of encouraging. We're not going to go there with our big red pen and say, but this is how you actually spell it. Because they've used the knowledge that they know. And as they learn more phonemes, more digraphs, more extended code, the more accurate their writing will become. Okay? So it is a process. They will apply it as they learn it. Okay? So the biggest thing, once again, is if they say, so I went to the park, how do you spell went? Don't say W-E-N-T. What would we say? What sounds does it? I can hear it, w-e-n-t, went. So once again, when we're helping them spell, we want to spell by helping them segment the sounds, not the letters.
Just a question. I always get these advertised to me online, which is those like groove books.
Oh, yes.
What's those?
I don't know, they'd get a bit tedious and boring, would they not? I mean, they would be, if your purpose is, or your intention is for them to produce perfectly formed letters, then they would achieve that. But is that going to make them a good writer? It's a very, very small part.
Yeah, they get advertised as like to build the muscle strength in writing.
Yeah.
That's what I always get confused by.
So muscle strength is fine motor,
Yeah.
okay? And really, there's so many better ways to do that than tracing in a groove book,
Yeah.
Play-Doh, Lego, anything that threading, anything they're using their fingers is building their strength, yeah? So I wouldn't be rushing out to get one, no, yeah. That would be the last thing I'd rush out to get, yeah. Even things like pencil grips. So once again, you know, we're talking about pencil grip, how do we hold our pencil? From the beginning, because once again, it's very hard when a habit is formed to undo, okay? Try and get the tripod grip. You can do snap, snap, crocodile, people at the back so they don't get, you know, eaten. If it's 3, it's still a functional tripod grip. That's not too bad. The reason we do that though is if we start doing this, you can tire. The way you're using your hand will become tired, so you won't have that stamina for later when we're doing longer texts or longer writing, okay? But no, play with things, use your fingers. That's what we need to build our fine motor, okay? That's the best way to build our strength for writing, okay? Pencil grips too, you've got to be careful. Sometimes they'll just hold it over the top in any way they like. So it's not often a good tool unless you've got it on every single writing implement, colouring pencil, felt pen, and you check they're still using the pencil grip the right way. You'd be better off getting triangular pencils. You know, they're much better, and you can get thicker ones too to start. So things like that are, or if they're really having trouble getting those fingers behind, put a little pom-pom in the palm of their hand that they have to hold while they're writing, because it keeps them from all being on the pencil. So that's another, they've gone a little tangent there, but good question. Don't spell out your words. That's the biggest things. Help them sound it out, okay? Looking for those incidental writing opportunities. Once again, let's have writing for a purpose. It doesn't have to be sit down writing time, okay? Think about our list. Gee, who uses lists everywhere? What I want for my birthday, what I need to pack, you know, shopping. There's a really good one, isn't there? What are we going to do today? You can write 1,000 different lists. Get your child to help you start writing them, even if it's only the initial sound that they write down for each thing. That's okay, that's valid. Notes and letters, emails, letters to friends and family, thank you cards, you know, posters of things they care about. Creative labelling, they've got a collection, they're doing a collection of rocks or sticks from the yard. Let's write a label, let's label it if it's important to you. You know, have lots of writing supplies for role play writing or writing in play. You know, maybe they're making up a new game, let's write the instructions for them. Maybe we're role playing, going to the shops, etc. Let's, you know, give you some to use. Maybe some messages and notes. Maybe you can start a family message board where you write little notes to each other. You know, have a great day, love you. You know, I went to the park today. Gee, I've gone to the park a lot today. You know, so like just that idea of using written communication and seeing purpose. You know, if there's purpose in it, then they're more inclined to want to participate. Yeah. There's probably, they won't see a lot of purpose in a tracing book, will they? Yeah. Okay, once we got to that point, just quickly, if we're extending, if you've got a child who's started to do all of those things and they really, really love it, you know, and they want to go further, you might be able to start using sentence prompts. I wonder why. This reminds me of some visual prompts, maybe a word wall or vocabulary journal, where if there's common words or interesting words that they're really keen to learn, you could make a collection of those. Incorporate descriptive adjectives, use conjunctions, so and, because, but, get them to expand their ideas, expand their writing. And then, of course, eventually you start working into editing and revising, but it's not really where you would start in foundation.
Can I throw something in?
Sure.
I tutor primary school kids.
Yep.
And I've found like a lot of the kids that I work with are neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's plenty of books out there that say, you know, here's a book of 100 journal prompts for kids. And that's fine, but they're still going to see you opening a book. See this, I want you to do this, and they switch off.
Mm-hmm.
I have taken things from like journal prompts and stuff and put them on paddle pop sticks, and then they've got a bit of agency and control over what
Fabulous.
they're doing, and it makes the biggest difference when they're writing something that they chose or that they want to do. I think it's always presented, especially with like TPT and stuff like that on the internet, that, you know, here's the sheet, here's the book, here's fill in the
You should do all of this. All of this can happen without worksheets.
Exactly. I
All
do
of
that
it.
in childhood as well, and
Yeah.
I just bring so many things across, because especially now, like the kids just want to feel like they're in charge. They get so little opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
So if they think they've called the shots or they've had a say, so much more engaged.
Sometimes it could be that centre starter. How do you want it to be? I can write this starter for you. You know, we talked about shared reading, taking turns. It could be the same with writing. You know, what bit can you do? What bit would you like me to do? If they've done a really great sentence, sometimes if they're starting to produce longer pieces of writing, you'll see this amazing accuracy at the beginning, and then after a sentence or two, it just becomes, you know, kind of what happened, it went off track, or, you know, the spelling they're getting tired. You've used up that cognitive load. So, you know, let's keep it where it's a good sweet spot for them, and we can help with the rest. If they still want to, I still want to put down my thoughts, but I don't have it in me to write anymore, Less flashcards, more creative thinking, absolutely. Pinterest is great. Pinterest and Google for ideas. They don't have to be, I wouldn't want them to be worksheets, particularly in early writing and reading. It's been a whirlwind, hey. I could speak for days and days and go into lots of tangents, but the biggest thing from today, hopefully you've gone away with, is literacy really does begin with oral language. It is so, so important. So lots of conversation, use those incidental and informal learning opportunities. You don't need to sit down and learn, and making it fun. So if you have enjoyed today, as I say, I've only been able to skim on the surface. I normally would teach this for days if I'm talking at literacy. We do have from TAFE Queensland on-demand webinars that you can watch video, and there's some downloadable resources for you as well. So if you are interested in that, this QR code will put your information in a form and we can contact you and give you all the details for accessing those. But you might like, this one is the Foundation Skills Beginner Reader. We go a little bit further in this to phonological awareness. We talk more about the strategies and teaching that, more into the phonics and decoding and comprehension as well, which we didn't get time to talk about today. So you might be interested in that one. Another one is our educational learning styles, and this can apply to all topics. What strategies you can do to really make the learning personalised for your child and engaging and want them to have interest. Sorry, Simon, it's my turn to take too long. But if you'd like to have a chat, I'm happy to wait outside because we need to give the room over. But thank you, hope you had a good time. Sorry.